Dr. Shona Pungavkar has been a consultant at MRI Center, Dr. Balabhai Nanavati Hospital for last 16 years. Presently, she is the head of MR and CT department in Global Hospitals, Mumbai, and director in Makarpura Diagnostics at Baroda. She studied at Grant Medical College, Mumbai, and has done her post-graduation from Lokmanya Tilak Municipal Hospital. Dr. Shona Pungavkar is passionate about newer applications of MRI with special interest in neuro-oncology, MR spectroscopy, MR mammography, and fetal MRI. She has pioneered MR spectroscopy and MR mammography in Mumbai and India. She has been the first in India to conduct hands-on MR spectroscopy and MR mammography courses and continues to do so in various cities in India. She attended as an invited speaker in various national conferences and has participated in few international conferences. She has several national and international publications in indexed journals. She has authored few book chapters as well.
Yeah, can you hear me now? Thank you so much for the introduction, and thank you for having me here. The first lecture was very nice and helped me a lot because I practice neuroradiology as the basic modality, and then but back in Bombay we have to do much more in MR. We can't just stick to our neuroradiology as it is a privilege in the West. But today I would like to first of all thank the organizers of SARC meeting, this SCR meeting. And the reason I'm here today is it's actually a very bad time for me personally. Back home, we are just inaugurating our new MR CT center. But I have so many friends back in Bangladesh that I couldn't say no to this lecture and I couldn't cancel it later on when the inauguration got fixed. We have so many of you coming to Bombay as observers, and we actually like sharing the time with you all. And what I find is that there's a lot of warmth in the people who come to Bombay from here. And we have very, very sweet memories of a lot of doctors from here. So let me first take you through, I just changed the pattern. I'm going to do spectroscopy in the second lecture. We'll look at something which is very state-of-the-art, the arterial spin labeling. It's a new technique which I hope you all find interesting. We have started that, I started that when I was in Nanavati about a year and a half ago. I worked on ASL there on a new 3 Tesla machine for 6 months, and then I shifted to Global Hospital. Global Hospital is a center, very, very upcoming and promising center in the heart of Mumbai next to KEM Hospital. Most of you know the King Edward Memorial Hospital in Mumbai. And luckily for me, we had the same magnet there, the 3 Tesla 750 WGE Discovery, and I could use my experience from Nanavati on the same machine. And we've got a lot of cases. What I'm showing you is data till January 2015. After that, we have another 400 or 500 cases, which I'm going to present in one of the conferences in Tata now, which is about a consorted experience of about 1,000 plus patients. So let's look at what is available when we want to look at the brain parenchyma in terms of cerebral blood flow. So what are the types of perfusions available? The conventional is dynamic susceptibility weighted imaging, in which you give a contrast to the patient and you rapidly image that passage of contrast in the brain, which we call as dynamic study. So that's called DSC. But there are some limitations in DSC. And we will look at principles of ASL. How did ASL come into picture? We look at some literature, some examples, and our experience, and maybe encourage you all to use it in practice, as in how you all have the newer magnets and the newer software. So what is that we're looking at when we're measuring perfusion in the brain? We are looking at cerebral blood flow. And what does it mean? That means how much of blood is flowing through every minute in 100 grams of tissue. And that already is measured by other techniques such as PET and even when they use oxygen, etc., to see how much flow of blood is there. So this is already known and established. So it's about, in the grey matter we already know it's 50 to 60 ml. In the white matter it's about 30 to 35 ml. It's higher in children because the brain is developing, and it's lower in elderly like us because it's slow, the brain becomes slow as we grow older. And types of perfusion, so again let's revisit. T2 star imaging, as we call, is called as dynamic susceptibility weighted imaging. And we also have a T1 weighted perfusion, which is very more reliable in terms of parameters, but it's cumbersome to do, and not everybody has this software. It measures the permeability constant, which is the Ka trans, and is the best in terms of measurements of absolute values. But we have to usually do with the T2 star imaging, and now we have this arterial spin labeling. The whole world is now shifting from contrast imaging towards the use of non-contrast imaging, because we want to try and save the toxic effects and as well as save on the cost. So we have, as you saw in the earlier image with the new machines, this SWI imaging, that is susceptibility weighted imaging. So that gives us a idea of how much of blood or hemorrhage is there in a lesion. If you add arterial spin labeling to it, you have a non-contrast examination which tells you that you're looking at a high-grade neoplasm. So you don't need really contrast to tell you what we earlier wanted to see, contrast enhancement, etc. So in both of these techniques, what are you doing? You are allowing rapid passage of blood through the brain parenchyma. You are concentrating on collecting data in the brain parenchyma. The tagging of the blood which is flowing can be in two different ways, by contrast, or it can be because you have labeled the drug either with a magnetic tracer or by altering the parameters of that flowing blood. Let us see what do I mean by that. So first let's look at dynamic contrast weighted imaging. This is a color map, and this is how the blood flow in the brain looks. The red color is the area where there is more blood flow. As we know, these are sulcal vessels and the cortex which is getting perfused. And the blue color is the white matter, where we know there is less blood flow compared to the cortex. What happens in tumors is they secrete substances such as VEGF and EGFR. These substances in turn induce production of new vessels which were ideally not required for normal brain parenchyma but are required for the tumor tissue to grow. These are more in number, they are abnormal, and they have leaky vessels, and that's why you have more blood flowing to that area, which you can measure by using cerebral blood volume. Now coming to the pitfalls in T2 star imaging. So this is how area of susceptibility will look on even routine images, gradient echo images as we call them, and this is, it appears dark. Now when you have susceptibility weighted imaging, that means T2 star imaging, you see that this area which is where the blood is flowing in a larger quantity also becomes dark. So you cannot differentiate between the blood and the dark areas. So this is a technical pitfall. That means if you had a hemorrhagic lesion, you would not be able to assess perfusion in that area very accurately. You would have artifacts. Plus bone also has susceptibility. So if there were areas which were close to the bone, like the base skull, you will not be able to do a good perfusion study with contrast. Again, the same with paranasal sinuses, because air causes susceptibility artifacts. Plus, if you have to give contrast, you can't go on repeating that study in patients who have been uncooperative, especially in the setting of pediatric imaging. And quantification is not possible. What do we mean by that? We are assessing relative values. That means we would look at an area here and then try to compare it with that. That means we are looking at a relative value. Absolute value is not possible on dynamic susceptibility weighted imaging, and that is why the calculation of RCB is inaccurate, especially when you have these breaks in the blood-brain barrier. Now coming to an introduction to arterial spin labeling. What are we doing? We already have water in the arterial blood which is flowing through the brain parenchyma. We are trying to tag that and measure how fast or how slowly and in what quantity it is flowing through the area of interest. Now the problem with this is it has low sensitivity. That means what? It means that the signal is so small that you need a higher field magnet to assess it. Technically you can do it even on a 0.5 Tesla, but you will have measured signal which you cannot utilize for interpretation. That means you go 1.5 Tesla and above, it's what we call as high field magnets, and 3 Tesla is much more reliable than a 1.5 T. And coming to why ASL till now did not become very popular, although it was known for a long time, is because of the evolution of the magnet strength and its availability in the clinical practice. Also about some techniques that had to be evolved, that means the hardware and the acquisition had to be evolved before the technique was utilized in clinical practice. So let's look at how actually we do an ASL study. So in the first image, in the first step, what we do is this blue slab that you see is the blood getting tagged by a magnetic field in the neck. So what happens, this is the slab where we will have the yellow band is where we will actually acquire the data. So we acquire the data with the tagged blood flowing through. Then we repeat the whole study. Somebody from the audiovisual will have to come and help me here. The laptop is losing battery. Is there anybody who can help the audiovisual? So we repeat the study without the tag, and then the difference is what we measure as CBF or cerebral blood flow. It just dies down if you have no lecture. So, okay, so what happens with DSC? One advantage is that we can measure several parameters in dynamic contrast study, where you have CBV, CBF, mean time to transit and time to peak. But in ASL, the only thing you can measure is CBF. But the advantage is that you may be able to do an absolute quantification if you did correct post-processing. Not in the clinical practice, but you will need special workstation for that with SPM processing, etc. If I come this side, I can't talk. The mic is removed. If some of you are looking at a lot of tumor patients, then you must make sure that in your protocols you have gradient echo imaging. That means if you have the newer SWI, that is even better, or on GE we call it SWAN, susceptibility weighted angiography imaging. Make sure you have a good coronal T2. It really helps you to look at details very clearly, as you saw in the earlier lecture. So many times when we have these scans coming to us from outside, we find coronal T2 missing, we find gradient missing. Another thing we find missing is diffusion weighted imaging. That also really helps a lot. So these things, if you make sure you have in your protocol, that it will help you to monitor these patients better, especially in the setting of radiotherapy, etc. So we have, okay, we did look at this. If there's any doubt on this, I could go through it again. We first tag the blood in the neck, wait for a while, acquire the image of the brain, then repeat the whole thing without the tagging, and we have a difference. We have two sets of data. One is subtracted from the other, and the difference is what the CBF map will look like. We have, how do we, I mean, like just like you have press and steam, and in spectroscopy you have different techniques how you can acquire this data. Continuous ASL, pulsed ASL, and velocity selective ASL. So these both have different issues. One has of longer time, one needs a wider labeling slab. So if you did so much of slab labeling, then you would not get data over the cerebellum. And if you did, if this whole thing was done as a continuous labeling, it would take a longer time. I'll come back to what is the resolution, how do we resolve this problem. But before that, a word about velocity selective ASL. This is a very exciting technique that is available. Eventually, as progress is being made, what we will find is that you tag one blood in one artery in the neck, like say for example you tag the left internal carotid artery, you will be able to see the blood flowing through only the left internal carotid artery. So it will be like a DSA imaging. You will be able to separate out the blood flow between right side and left side, plus each artery individually, say external and internal cerebral arteries, carotid arteries, and that is very exciting because you can actually avoid a lot of invasive procedures. I know some neurointervention people here will not be happy when I say that, but you can avoid some of the invasive investigations.
So now the solution to the first problem that I showed, the problem I showed you on the earlier side is a combination of the two, and this is called as pseudo-continuous labeling. So that is why we had to wait till it became available in clinical practice, till this was developed. And in this you combine both. That means you take a smaller slab and faster time, cover the whole brain. It gives you a good SNR, signal to noise ratio. And so now it is, because of the improvisations we are able to use, coil technology changed, we have better coils now, and therefore we have higher SNR with 3 Tesla, etc. Pseudo-continuous labeling was developed, and main thing is that there is good background suppression with the newer magnets, and that's why now we are able to use ASL so well. This is how the ASL map looks. This is the raw data. You can put color to this, just as we saw in the DSC. So what it means is the cortex is white. That means there is more blood flowing through that. Black areas are the white matter, which are showing less flow. So on a grayscale imaging, white is higher flow and black is lower flow. So this is the work which has been done on this, and almost starting from 2003.
You're spending 5 minutes more on the patient, and post-processing is also within 1 minute you can do it. So it's not a very big, difficult test to do. Thank you again.
Pungapkar to have his crest from our chairman, please. Dr. Sona Pungapkar. Thank you very much. Now I request the speaker of this presentation, Dr. Sona Pungapkar, to present crest to the chairman of this session, Professor Nazmun Nahar. Professor Nazmun Nahar. Thank you all.